The very capable Skoda Yeti has left a long-lasting mark on the minds of car enthusiasts. Now they don't make them like that anymore. In fact, Skoda has moved to more conventional crossovers now, like the Kodiaq and the Karoq. Now, whether they are as capable as the Yeti or not, that's a debatable topic. But one thing's for certain, the market has responded extremely well to these chiseled crossovers, probably better than they ever did to the boxy predecessor. Now, Skoda has decided to let loose another sharply dressed crossover in the Indian market, and they're hoping that it will set the sales charts on fire. Say hello to the new Skoda Kushaq. I don't remember when was the last time the Indian audience was so excited about a product that wore the cliched "Made for India" tag, but the Kushaq has certainly stirred a lot of interest. The styling definitely plays a big role in that. It has razor-sharp lines inspired by its larger siblings, but its closest sibling is the Skoda Kamiq. Such edgy designs from Skoda usually age well. The layered design comprising of the imposing vertically slatted grille, the chunky cladding and the forced skid plates gives the Kushaq a Buddha stance. The sophisticated lighting elements with the split design and bohemian crystal glass inspired detailing are another big draw for the car. The LED headlamps on the range-topping trim are one of the best in the segment, if not the best, and work well even on wet concrete roads. The tail lights look great too, and in the new Skoda fashion, they have a subtle C-shaped motif. The side profile shows off the elegant yet sporty 17-inch wheels. The roof rails contribute to that SUV stance, and the large glass house promises a roomy cabin. The Kushaq looks handsome and imposing in its unique way, no matter what angle you look at it from. But there is no denying that it looks quite compact when seen from its side. At 4.2 meters long, it slots right in between the sub-4 meter crossovers like the Brezza or the Nexon and the mid-size crossovers like the Creta and the Hector. Remember I told you when we reviewed the Karoq that the efficient packaging of the MQB platform has made all of its cars look smaller without compromising on the cabin space. The Kushaq follows in that tradition. The A0iN might be an Indianized version of the MQB platform, but it brings along all the benefits and facets of that platform too. So while the Kushaq might seem small on paper, it's actually got a wheelbase that is longer than its Korean rivals. The cabin, therefore, is quite roomy, much better than what the exteriors could actually suggest. Also, the doors, they open nice and wide, almost 90 degrees. That makes ingress and egress quite easy. And these doors, as well as the boot lid, have that reassuring thud that you expect of a Skoda. The power windows, however, are surprisingly noisy, and so are the ventilated seats. The rear bench has a nearly flat bolstering which maximizes shoulder room, and they don't feel uncomfortable at all. We measured and found the shoulder room and headroom to be just as roomy as the Creta, but the Creta's cabin feels roomier because of a longer floor-to-ceiling measurement. Therefore, if you are a 6-footer, the likes of the Creta could fit you better. The front seats are mounted quite tall to give you that elevated driving position, and that liberates a lot of foot space. The knee room is also excellent, and even the headroom is actually quite good. Under-thigh support is agreeable, and the overall angle of the backrest, it's quite good for long-distance journeys is what I believe, but some other members in the team believe that it should have been a little bit more upright. So it will fit different people differently. However, the bolstering is almost quite flat to give you a nice and wide shoulder room. And despite having 3 adjustable headrests, this rear bench is only good enough for 2 adults and a kid. Now the window line, it's quite tall, so kids or shorter passengers on the outer sides of the seat might complain of limited visibility outside of the windows. A panoramic roof is certainly missed considering that the rivals offer it. That said, the cabin still manages to have an airy feel to it. Convenience features include rear AC vents, future-proof USB-C ports, and small phone pockets like the Octavia, which may not be as future-proof looking at how phones are getting larger every year. The range-topping style trim has upholstery done up in greys. Now these aren't as bright as the greys that we saw in the Octavia, and yet they contribute to that airy feel. I also think that they will be more enduring to our dusty conditions. I also like this yellow stitching. I think it adds a hint of sportiness. The overall bolstering of the seat is nice and supportive. It's comfortable on long rides as well. But I think the side cushioning, it should have been a little bit firmer than what it is right now. The front seats are mechanically adjustable even on the top trims. The driver's seat is height adjustable and the steering is adjustable for rake and reach. Behind it is an analog cluster that flanks a simple multi-info digital display. Now, while this multi-info display will give you all the essential readouts like the overall fuel economy, the real-time fuel economy, the range, the trip computer, travel time, etc., it still feels very basic. It reminds me of the Rapid or even the Fabia for that matter. Yes, some of us still love the mechanical needles and the movement of it, but in today's times, Škoda ought to have given a TFT display. The market has moved on. The market expects a fully digital display now, and we know that this platform supports it because we've seen it on the Taygun concept as well. In fact, we do hear that it is coming to the Kushaq, but maybe on a different trim level, maybe on a different variant, a Monte Carlo maybe. But as of now, even the top-end style trim only gets you this display type. Sitting safely in line with this instrumentation is the Škoda Play touchscreen infotainment that has a simple and easy to use tile layout. The system isn't laggy, but on the pre-production car that we are driving, it has faced a few connectivity issues, like for example the wireless Apple CarPlay keeps connecting and disconnecting, like right now. There have been frequent call drops, there have been audio glitches as well, and it's something that we have just not been able to get rid of. Teething issues, I guess. But the reversing camera, it's simply low resolution. Who does this in today's times? It ought to have been better. You don't even get dynamic guidelines. Not acceptable at this particular price point. Now, as for the system itself, it gets its own set of apps as well. By default, it comes with the Booking.com, Gaana. You can download more via Škoda's own Play Store as well. And you also get basic connected tech like vehicle tracking or drawing the vehicle's health status, or even getting the overall estimated time of arrival or the current position of the car. You know, all of that is possible provided you download and install Škoda's own navigation app on this particular system. On the top trims, the system is mated to a 6-speed unbranded audio unit, but it sounds great nevertheless and has a better punch than some of its rivals. We have seen tag holders on Škoda cars for ages now, and finally the government has given us the opportunity to use them thanks to FASTags. However, in the rains, the wipers do not cover the area that these tag holders reside in, and that is why quite a few toll booths had a problem reading these FASTags during these rains, especially when the windshield got dirty in that particular area. So you're back to sticking these FASTags on the windshield. Now, speaking of this area, you also have some blank panels here, some blank switches here, some unassigned switches on the steering, and when you press them, it says as much on the instrumentation. And that, along with this old display type, can make you feel shortchanged. Now, you have cup holders. You also have traction dots inside the cup holders so that it makes for easy one-handed opening of bottles. Good feature. But then these cup holders, they themselves are set too far back. They're far too low as well. So getting to them can be cumbersome at times. And finally, the AC, the touch type AC controls, they're not intuitive at all. I think old school controls here and new age console there would have been the way to go. So to sum it up, the cabin covers all the basics that you would ask for. The materials used, they feel basic but not low rent. I think soft touch materials on the dash or on the common touch points would have elevated the premium feel of the cabin. They should have definitely done that. That said, the fit and finish is excellent and you can't really find faults with it. The shut lines, the way everything works, everything is perfect that way. I also like these textured inlays, and there are plenty of storage spaces inside this cabin. You have them in the door pads, you have them on the tunnel console, even the glove compartment is cooled. You also have those little strings on the door pads to keep things in place. So there are quite a few clever touches inside this cabin. After all, it's a Škoda, and all of this comes together quite nicely to make the cabin experience a bit better. Speaking of storage, the boot is fairly large and has a wide aperture, but the high loading lip can get cumbersome with heavier items. Given the exterior dimensions of this car, some people are bound to make comparisons between the Kushaq and the Suzuki S-Cross, but the higher placement of the seats gives you a more commanding view of the road than what the S-Cross offers. Also, the engines and the gearboxes in the Kushaq, both of them, they feel much better than what the S-Cross offers, but we'll come to that in a bit. As far as the visibility goes, your visibility outside of the windscreen is quite good. Cornering visibility, however, is a bit compromised, and that's because of the wide A-pillar and that wing mirror geometry. But anyone who is upgrading from, say, a Polo or a Rapid will feel right at home with the kind of geometry that they'll have around the A-pillar. And these people who are upgrading from these cars will also appreciate the fact that you can see the chiseled bonnet. It's actually a good feeling. What they'll also appreciate probably is the fact that the Kushaq, unlike what most of you said, does not feel like a Polo on stilts. It is a much roomier car than that. Traveling with 4 people and their luggage doesn't seem like a worry for the Kushaq, thanks to the 2 turbocharged engines, both of which can be had with the convenient automatic transmissions. As you're probably already aware, there are 2 engine options on offer, and the 1.5 definitely feels like a 150 PS motor. It feels eager no matter what the situation. Whether you are getting off the mark or even the roll-on accelerations, it just feels like a very eager motor, and a lot of driving enthusiasts out there are certainly going to enjoy this engine. It also comes with cylinder deactivation technology, which means out of the 4 cylinders, it can run on 2 cylinders if required when there are low load conditions, like cruising on the highway, for example. And it works absolutely discreetly. There's no change to the performance, there's no change to the sound of the engine either. The only thing that tells you that it's running on 2 cylinders is a little message on the multi-info display. And the moment you get back onto the gas, the 4 cylinders are fired again, and it just gives you that instantaneous performance. So that switch is absolutely discreet, and one that actually helps you get better fuel economy and reduce emissions as well. It is quick to get into the 2-cylinder mode on the highway, and that shows in the fairly good fuel economy it manages. Drive in a spirited manner though, and those economy figures drop to single digits rather quickly. But the 1.5-litre engine is the one to choose with the Kushaq because it goes with the premium and sporty appeal of this car. The 1-litre engine naturally feels dull in comparison. It's adequate for city commuting and highway cruising, but the meat of the power is only felt beyond the 3000 RPM mark, which means that while the 6-speed torque converter automatic is usually quick to respond, overtakes do need some planning as the engine needs to rev high to make progress. Ditto for flyovers and inclines. This engine simply doesn't feel as enthusiastic as it did in the Rapid 1.0 TSI, and the figures are comparable more to the sub 4 meter crossovers than the mid-size ones. Unsurprisingly then, it isn't as fuel efficient as the 1.5 TSI either. Another thing we noticed with the 1-litre auto is that it keeps lurching forward at idling RPM. This is designed for bumper-to-bumper traffic so that you simply have to modulate the brake pedal. But since it lurches forward instead of creeping, this is a feature you may or may not appreciate. Both the automatic gearbox are tuned to move to higher gears soon to maximize fuel economy, but you won't need to take manual control often. Skoda also assures that the DQ200 DSG transmission is tried and tested now and will work reliably even in our conditions. To cement that assurance, there is a longish warranty package on offer too. The ride quality is typically European. It has that firm edge, but it feels nicely damped on poor road conditions. It's only the sharper bumps that will lead to thudding that is heard and felt inside the cabin. So, all things considered, the ride quality is not as plush as, say, a Nexon or a Harrier, but it's a bit softer than what the Sonnet offers, and it's quite comparable to the Creta. The ground clearance is pretty good as well. The Kushaq 1-litre has a noticeably lighter front end and lesser dive under braking compared to the 1.5-litre variant, but it also tends to bounce about a little bit more than the 1.5 on a series of potholes. Around winding roads, you will absolutely enjoy the Kushaq. It's got these taut handling dynamics, almost reminds me of the Compass, feels like a mini Compass, but that is where any references to the Compass end, because if you take it off the beaten path, you will feel that there's a lot of wheel spin, you will quickly find yourself digging into the dirt. So just stick to tarmac and you will enjoy this car a lot more. Unfortunately, like most new Skoda cars, you do not get any drive modes, and unlike most of its new age competition, you do not get any traction control derived terrain modes either. That's a bit of a downer. But like I said, stick to tarmac and you will enjoy this car and its sportier side. The steering of the Kushaq, it reminds me of the Octavia, not only because of the two-spoke design, but also because of how it's tuned, how light it remains. I wished it weighed up a little bit more at highway speeds or at higher speeds, but it's not something that I will complain about for long. In fact, a lot of you out there will appreciate the lightness of the steering, especially at city speeds. The brakes also have sharp responses to complement the sporty dynamics of this car. And while most enthusiasts will enjoy this, people who are commuting in the city with this car might find a little time to get used to that bitey feel of the brake pedal. But once you do, you will also appreciate the confidence that it inspires. Summing it up, the Kushaq is a decent attempt by Skoda to regain footing in the Indian market. Though light on its feet, the Kushaq 1.0 TSI feels lackluster in its real-world performance, and therefore the 1.5-litre variants are the ones that we will recommend. This means one would have to stretch by a fair bit on the price, and that lands the Kushaq in the tricky territory of rivals that are extremely well-specced on features, creature comforts and new age tech. That said, buying decisions aren't always about comparing spec sheets. The Kushaq builds strongly on the facets that we Indians appreciate about Skoda: the premium poise, the taut handling, the solid build and a driver-focused character. And from that perspective, the Kushaq 1.5 will leave you more than satisfied if you don't compare price tags to feature lists. What do you think about the Kushaq? If you had to pick one, which one would it be? What would be the variant? What would be the trim level? Do let us know. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channels and do share this video with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching.